All right, headphones on, everybody. Broadcasting live from the apocalypse, coming to you from our secluded bunker on the west bank of the Halifax River. Welcome to the COVID Castle. I'm your pandemic professor, Scott Velasco, and today we're going to dive into, it's one of those things that I wish I had more time to talk about during our class meetings. This is automation. Jump over to Pro Tools here, and in Pro Tools we've got a session set up, and the very first thing that I suggest you do is to open what's called your Write Enable window. So on a PC that's going to be Control 4 in the numeric keypad. On a Mac that's going to be Command 4 in the numeric keypad. And let's get a good little screen detail of this window. So you can see here it is giving us the ability to either enable or disable all of these various parameters that we could automate. And you'll notice I just start with all of them ready to be enabled, and we'll get into a little bit more detail on that, but it's definitely worth opening that window up before you get too deep into this process, just to make sure. And we're going to talk today about 3 input methods, which are the Smart Tool, Pencil, and the fader. And when it comes to that fader, we're going to talk about 3 modes that we can use with the fader. That is write mode, latch mode, and touch mode. And then if we have a little bit of time at the end, hopefully we'll get into some fun tips and tricks. But for now, back in Pro Tools, let's just take a second to listen to where we are in this mix.
Show me the moves I've never seen before.
So already listening to that, I can tell that we're kind of into this mix. I've done some work on it already. Those initial rough balances are coming together, and now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty things, those things that are sort of more detail-oriented, and that's where automation's really going to come in handy for us. The very first thing I notice is that background vocal line. One of those first lines that you hear the background vocals, I know whoever sang those is going to want to hear that a little clearer. Let's just have a listen to it. Here's our first vocal line. Yeah, and actually the second half of that, I think the second half of that is fine. Now, whoever gives the notes probably wouldn't say that. But if we just make that first word from the background vocals more audible, it'll catch your ear, and I think they'll be fine with everything that comes after that. So let's just really zero in on that, and we're going to use our Smart Tool to enter this automation. Right now we are looking at the volume line on this BGV's aux. Now, if we weren't working on an aux, and let's get a good screen detail on this, if we were working on an audio track instead, then what we would want to do is come right over here where you see my cursor to the track view selector. And if it's volume that we want to automate, then we would have to change that to volume. In fact, let's scroll down just a little bit to here's an audio track. You can see it's set to waveform by default, and I would put that on volume instead. But aux's default to volume. So we're just going to use our Smart Tool, and our Smart Tool, of course, can be accessed up here in the top of the screen. you'll see the Smart Tool is this bar that goes over these 3 tools. So individually we have a grabber, a selector, and a trimmer. But if we want to use all 3 at the same time, just depending on where we place our cursor, we click that bar and it activates our Smart Tool. So with my Smart Tool, I'm going to first select the portion that I want to automate. And then by bringing my cursor a little higher in the track here, I get my trim, and I can just pull that up. And let's pull it up by, let's start by about 3 decibels and see what that sounds like for a second.
Seen before.
Close, close. Let's try maybe just a little bit more. The word is pulsating, and we're starting to hear it now.
Seen before.
Yeah, now, you know what? Actually, the rest of that phrase should come up too, but not by quite as much. So I'm going to select and then just raise the rest of this up. What did I do? 2 decibels there. Let's hear that. Yeah, and the same thing with this second line where we hear go steady. I'd like to hear more of go steady. So it's going to be about right there, and let's raise that up. I did 4 decibels on the last one. Let's try the same here. By the way, if you want to do really minute little adjustments, you can hold down the Command key while you make the adjustment, and that will slow the degree at which you're moving the volume line. Let's listen. Yeah, now what would be nice is if we could just kind of, the ooh, you're undeniable sounds good to me, but let's kind of ride the volume down during that ooh. Now there are a couple ways you could do this. I could use my grabber tool and grab that dot and actually just slide it over so the volume kind of rides down during the word ooh. I could take this second keyframe there and slide it to the right. Let's hear that. But here's something that a lot of people don't know, actually. Here's one of those fun tricks that you can pick up along the way. If I undo what I just did, if I just select the area that I want to smooth out and use Command X, it will naturally fade that down for me to the next keyframe. So you can see one more time, here's where it was. I selected that region and then used Command X, and it just naturally draws that fade down. Let's hear it now one time.
My soul steady, ooh, you're undeniable. You've got my dope.
Yeah, and I do think I like that a lot. Alright, and that was probably good for automation part 1. We talked about using the Smart Tool to enter automation. If you tune in next time, we will talk about using the Pencil Tool and fader automation. Be sure to click that card up here to get to the next video. And until then, it's time to bounce. This is Scott Velasco fading out.
It was a Tuesday afternoon. He put his hand on the doorknob. He began to turn.